Discussions in this show are for entertainment and educational purposes only and should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and neither SmartPro Financial nor Bridgeway Wealth are affiliated. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Working Wealth Podcast. I'm Patrick Rogers.
And I'm Haley.
And we are a husband and wife team running a financial planning office as part of a much larger organization out of Greenville, South Carolina. And we are excited to be recording our first episode of the Working Wealth Podcast today.
That's right.
Where we are talking about our backstory and really diving into how we got here, why we're here, and why we think that the fact that we're here can be helpful to you, and providing some really helpful revelations or some hope or just some useful content about what it means to really double down, invest in yourself, and use your skills and your talents and maybe take some risks to ultimately enhance your wealth building journey.
Right.
I think one of the key things that we focus on with our business is, we don't just view ourselves, or I should say, I don't just view myself as a financial advisor. More so, we are in the process of helping people develop their wealth and helping people understand what it takes to get results over time through the process by employing the right tools for their personal situation. So I guess with all that said, Haley.
Yeah, we're going to start a little bit of our personal backstory. So I guess the big thing is okay, how did we get started? What kind of was our first step to getting at this table, talking about what we're talking about today? And I guess it was right about the time we got married, which now is about 7 years ago. As I have reminded Patrick, our anniversary is very, very soon.
Not because I was forgetting, just because we're very, very busy these days with a lot of things going on, family and business-wise.
That and a newborn.
Yep, that's right. And so going back to about 7 years ago, I would say, just give some highlights is we were in a process where we were in our first or second jobs out of college, and we were in a pretty good financial position. And I think that, just for the sake of conversation today, it's helpful to give some real numbers and real metrics of where we were, because again, like I said at the beginning, we want this to be something to provide hope for people and provide clarity of, how you can also see results and what we would define as success on this journey that everybody's on. So we were 22 years old, almost 23. Doing pretty well in terms of income. I think we were around $125,000 or so as a household income.
Yeah, that's how I remember it.
No debt, or almost done paying off student loans at the time. Had a really, really good amount of savings set up. We were both working for the same company.
I'm
actually.
the saver.
Yep, Haley's a great saver, that's for sure. But we were working at the same company that offered 401k plan. We were both contributing up to the match. Surprisingly enough, that company was matching 10% on contributions, which you don't hear very often these days. So that was a really, really nice benefit. But I think where we were was, we had both come out of college after doing a lot of hard work. Haley got a PR and communications degree. My background was mechanical engineering. Haley had also been a student athlete during her time in school. And we put a lot of effort into building and growing a resume, if you will, to get into the workforce and buying into that belief of, you work at a good place, or you maybe work at a few different good places over your entire career. You put in your 40 years, and then you get to that point where hopefully you've done well enough where you can, retire and sail off on the sunset and enjoy life.
But that time period in life is trying to figure out, hey, I don't know what I don't know. And so we just were experiencing a lot of new things, a lot of, coming up marriage. We were brand new in the workforce, and we just kind of started to realize, hey, we might need some guidance. We need some expert advice in this area. And so we went looking. Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah, and I think that was really one of the key things that led us to where we are today. Obviously, kind of the first domino, if you will.
Little did we know.
Right.
I mean, most people don't go seeking out financial advice and then realize we're gonna help people out. We're gonna
Right.
do this for ourselves.
Right. And I think just from experience of working with so many clients over the past 6 or 7 years was getting to see the reality of nobody goes to sleep at night and wakes up in the middle of the night thinking, "Oh my goodness, I need a financial plan." That's just not the reality of it, right? And I think we can all relate to that truth that ultimately where we get to in life is there's a triggering event. There's something that happens.
Right.
It's a job change. It's a pregnancy. It's a a child being born. It's buying a house.
Yeah.
It's a family member passes away. Whatever that may be. There's always some kind of triggering event.
And that's what ours was. It was combining finances
Yeah.
and getting married. So there we were, 23, starting to interview, look for financial advisors. And what
Right.
was our experience?
Yeah, and I'm glad you asked that question. So we had what I would consider today is a very, very common experience. And the common experience being, you start with who you know, or you start with, who is reaching out to you.
That's right.
And I think we probably interviewed 3 or 4 different advisors at the time. And a lot of that process was maybe I was being a little bit more analytical about it because of
were you being an engineer?
I was being an engineer. And if you aren't aware, most financial planners do not like working with engineers because they are so detail focused. I actually love it because if we can get the details established and then simplify from there, that
Right.
makes the entire process pretty easy. But that being said, we interviewed multiple people. We worked with the acquaintance that reached out to us from a mutual insurance company. We met with parents advisors. We met with other people that we found online, things like that. But I think the common thing, and the reason why I say we had your typical experience,
Right.
is that the most common response we got or guidance we received was, "Hey, you guys are in a great spot. Buy this product, and we'll start a relationship with that, or
Right.
keep working at what you're doing and call us in 5 years."
Right, when we had more money to invest. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
and,
right.
and we can talk in another episode about, a lot of the ways that our industry works today and, how we feel about that, because I honestly think that a lot of our industry is muddled and it's conflicted,
Right.
and it doesn't provide people opportunities for receiving truly unbiased qualitative and quantitative advice at any stage of your journey.
So now I just thought of this question
Go for
while
it.
you were talking. So if that is the experience that a lot of people had, then what was different about, I guess, what we had planned, or I guess what God had planned for us, that we took that exact same response that a lot of people get, and we're like, okay, we can do this better. We can
Yeah.
help. I don't think that we thought that at the time. Like, I don't want to give us that much credit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it was, let's just dig in here. Let's figure out, okay, why is that the response to us? As I remember, and I am not the nerd of us. I am, I guess, the more free spirit, outgoing one. But I do remember being puzzled that there was not as many tangible, here's what to do, game plan. Here are the steps. I just kind of thought, well, why are we being pushed in this one direction that everybody's getting pushed in?
Yeah, I think that the thing that was really the trigger for us was having that conversation where, we had a few people that said, "Hey, well, send us some emails whenever you have questions. We'll respond to your emails,
Right.
and then we'll just chat later," kind of thing. And I had one instance where I did some of that, and then ultimately the emails stopped getting responses to.
Of course.
And I get it. Now from where we are in business is you want to make sure you're providing
Yeah.
high quality service to your clients that you do have, and have capacity to provide service for other folks. But for us, I think it was more of a, hey, this just doesn't feel right. And there was a little bit of disillusionment with our where we were in our career paths already.
Right.
We had, and I remember from when we had talked about this before we started recording, was Haley, you had mentioned that you had been in your commute going to the office some days and just thinking to yourself, man, I put in all this time and effort to do this, and we need to do this for the next 40 years. For me, it was the same thing, was sitting in
Yeah.
my desk or my cubicle where the classic experience of if someone has a job posting, they're hiring for a fast-paced, dynamic work environment, and it's literally a cubicle with a computer monitor.
Yeah.
And that is just not what
Wah,
I signed
wah,
up
wah.
for. Yeah, and so from my experience, at least in engineering school, was doing research and trying to solve complex problems and trying to actually make a difference. And I felt like a lot of the work we were doing and a lot of the work that I've seen in multiple corporate environments that I've been in on the engineering side wasn't actually giving that tangible perspective of making a real difference in people's
Right.
lives.
So we found this need, and then it was testing and getting licensed and getting started. I mean,
Yeah.
it was pretty quick. It was actually 2 weeks after we got married.
Yeah, and that was one of the kickers, or one of the real things that led us to accelerate that process or collapse the time frame of making a shift. Was you were living in Augusta, Georgia at the time.
That's right.
And we knew we wanted to move back to South Carolina, to one of the major metro areas. I think we actually came to an agreement that whoever
That's
applied
right.
for a job and got a job in Greenville, Charleston, or Columbia first, we would just go ahead and pack up and move, no matter what the pay was. We would just figure it out. And
Yes.
that was very scary. That was the first of, I think, 4, 60% plus pay cuts we've taken in our 7 years of marriage.
Right.
But all of that has been a benefit to lead to where we are today. And I think that, or going back to what you were saying is, when we realized that there was a need, that we weren't the only ones. We would have water cooler talk, or I would with my coworkers, of, how to optimize your 401k, or how to pick your investments, or do I need a Roth IRA on the side, or
Yeah.
what do I do about buying a house? Those are all questions we were trying to figure out at the time, and it never felt like there was someone who was willing or able to give us the time of day to really navigate those questions and help us make the right decisions to really enhance and improve upon our personal situation down the road.
Right.
So we did find an opportunity to get started in this business part-time. And I think that's a really, really cool aspect of this business is,
Oh, yeah. Without that, we wouldn't have done it.
oh yeah, we definitely would not have, because we needed that on-ramp or that transitionary period.
That's right.
To make the jump. And I think that especially in our culture today, where there's such a hustle mentality,
Yeah.
there's
The
the
side
side
hustle.
hustle, the passive income, all those kind of things people talk about. This is by no means passive income, I'll tell you that. But it was definitely one of those things where we saw an opportunity. And I remember sitting at my cubicle in Augusta. I could point where that cubicle was in the building right now, and remember studying for licensing exams and doing the work of what it took to get to where we wanted to go, because we knew the life we had, and we knew that the path we were on was not the one that was going to give us the opportunities and the trajectory or the pathway to get us to the right place.
Right. So we were just kind of trying something new. Luckily, you ended up getting a job.
Right.
And that brought us to Greenville, South Carolina, which we love.
Mm-hmm.
And now we live in Simpsonville specifically. So I guess the transition to, let's talk, you are now engineer and doing financial advising.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, how do we drop being an engineer? How are we starting to work together? I don't think there was ever really a question. We
Mm-hmm.
were always working together, which I know a lot of people, the big joke, I can never work with my spouse. And I
Mm-hmm.
get that. I mean, I hear that all the time, but it never was a question for us.
Right.
It was always, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we really talked about it.
No, I think it was one of those things, and maybe it's just a blessing of our personalities and the way the Lord put it together. But
Right.
I think one of the key elements of getting us to where we are today is the fact that we always did just assume we're working together.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I remember sitting at the Panera Bread on Garner's Ferry Road in Columbia
Yeah, we decided
with the
to.
person that helped us get in the industry a week before we got married, talking about what the vision was going to be like of having our own office and having our own practice, and being able to help people and demystify what it looks like to have a financial plan and to be working towards a successful financial future by today's standards. And I remember in that conversation we drew everything out on the paper, and we kind of closed out that conversation saying, "Hey, we're getting married in 7 days. We need to think about this a little bit." But we got married, we did our honeymoon, and then the next week, we signed up and said, hey, if nothing else, I think it cost us like $125 to sign up with this company and like start the licensing process. I think we both agreed at the time that if nothing else, we'll spend this money just to learn stuff.
Absolutely. And I do think that's how it definitely started out.
Right.
Was just
Right.
a curiosity, an educational process. We figured we'd be better off just learning the principles anyway.
Right.
And I don't know if I ever imagined what we have now.
Yeah.
And I definitely, people listening, there was no way to know. This, people talk about hope and a prayer. I remember praying. I remember hoping, hopefully this will work out one day. Oh, Patrick and I are smart enough to not let ourselves get into a bad spot.
Right.
I just remember.
And we have enough tenacity and persistence as
We're
well.
young enough to recover.
Right.
I mean,
and
that was a definite thought.
There were those conversations, especially with the move back to Greenville,
Absolutely.
well, you know what? We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
right?
but we loved Greenville. We knew we'd figure it out. But I think to fast forward a little bit, we had been in the business for a little while. Then we were getting prospected.
Yeah,
right? By
right.
the company that we're currently with.
Correct.
So let's talk about that just quickly, how we transitioned.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's just kind of touch on, how business looks today and how it's different.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to remind me of those things to cover, but we'll start with what that prospecting and transition was.
That's why you bring me.
Right. So in terms of where we were living back in Greenville. I think we had been there for literally a month and had someone reach out on LinkedIn.
To both of us individually. Because at the time, and just to clarify this, at the time we were both licensed with our life insurance licenses. Yeah.
I had my investment licenses, or the first ones.
Yeah.
As of today, I'm life insurance license, investment license. We are a fiduciary. Haley is not currently licensed.
I am practice manager. I am mom. I am all the things.
Right. But you have had more licenses than me in terms of diversity, because
this is true.
You had your mortgage origination license.
That's right.
That was part of that journey of what we'll get to in a second.
Which has served us well, because we know a lot more about mortgages
Exactly.
than a lot of people.
Exactly. And I guess before we get into the details of the transition, just one of the things that if you take away nothing else from this conversation, in my opinion, and that's for my compliance friends, in my opinion, the best investment you can make in yourself, is committing money, committing time, committing focus to expanding your learning and putting yourself in the right rooms to continue expanding your vision and expanding your perspective on what you can accomplish.
Yeah, and I'd say, we kind of got to leverage each other. Because while I'm not the one that's in client meetings, I'm not the advisor. There have been many times that I took steps to get a different job to make you going full-time possible.
Right.
Which was extremely important and is just as big as, maybe passing a licensing exam is being that supporting role that allowed us to financially swing it. I mean, really.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. And to take that and lead back into transition was, someone reached out to us on LinkedIn. We had just moved back to Greenville. I was doing a contract job for a major auto manufacturer. And at the time, it just wasn't right. It wasn't right to make that adjustment
that was a tough time.
It was. We had made a pretty substantial pay cut. I think it was about 60%. And the good thing of that, though, and this is another key takeaway, the good thing is, if you know your numbers and if you have clarity on where you are, you can make those strategic moves, and you can take a short-term back step to take 7 steps forward.
Right.
And I think that's a really key thing there. But it wasn't the right time for us to fully transition. You were doing some things. I was working the full-time job, contracting.
Right.
And just over time, this gentleman and I kept having conversations, and ultimately, when the time was right, about a year later.
It was not a quick process.
Yeah, it was not a quick process.
Separate meetings, you met, I met.
Yeah.
Now we're friends with him today.
Yeah. And ultimately, it was sealed over sushi, where we decided, hey, we need to go ahead and do this and just make this transition. But that was another decision of, we're going to spend some money to invest in ourselves, spend some money to expand our horizons, expand our opportunities, and ideally collapse the time frame of what it takes to build
Do
a
you remember
viable
the year
business.
that was?
The year of that was 2018
Okay, and
when
since
we made that
then,
transition.
we have been
Yeah.
partnered with Smart Pro Financial.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when we made a transition to Smart Pro Financial.
Yeah.
Our broker dealer is Cambridge Investment Research,
Right.
independent broker dealer, helps us process all of our business. But with Smart Pro, that gave us an opportunity too to get involved with a marketing opportunity, and specifically that being the Dave Ramsey Smart Vestor program.
Right.
So we are, specifically, I got to think of the right word here. It's no longer called the Endorsed Local Provider Network, but we are Smart
Okay.
Vestors, which is referred financial advisors or investment advisors to help listeners of Dave Ramsey's content and all of his personalities with his group. If you go to the website and put in your information, you get connected with
That's right.
local financial advisors. We use that program because number one, we agreed with it. We operate under the same mindset of live on less than you make and invest for the future, and being diligent with your money, good stewards, all those things. But we use that program to just start chipping away. And I remember when we first transitioned to Smart Pro Financial, I was still working as a full-time engineer with another automotive company. And
Yes.
over a period of about a year and a half, we just plugged away, and we said no to a lot of things. Said no to a
Socially.
lot of things that other 25-year-olds were doing, other 26-year-olds were doing. There
That's
was
right.
some more job transitions for you.
Right, because we kind of had to start shuffling. We knew,
Yeah.
as high performing as you are, that him continuing to work full time and also try and build a business full time,
Mm-hmm.
and also be like a husband and around, just wasn't going to be possible. So we did
Right.
have to kind of juggle a few things, and then I went and worked not too far from where we are actually filming right now.
Yep, that's right. Just literally right down the road.
Yeah,
But yeah, so we made that transition, and
That's right.
really just continually did making those right moves to set ourselves up to where we had a stable foundation to be a launching point. And I remember very distinctly, after a little over a year of being with Smart Pro Financial, we
yeah,
I was at a point where in my role in the engineering side was basically working 3 jobs for one pay. Classic story. Everybody knows what that's like, right? Especially these days. Love the company, by the way. Will always highly recommend the company and the people I worked with. But it was one of those things where I was working 3 jobs and traveling, once every 4 to 6 weeks
Right.
for a couple days out of a week, and that just wasn't sustainable to support the business. But we got to that point where we just had to look at the numbers and decide
We
if
can
we're
do
going to do
this.
this, we're going to do this. And that's when we really, threw the gauntlet down, I guess you could say. And
Yeah, I don't really remember it. There's
Yeah.
points of your life that you kind of like have healthy amnesia over,
Yeah.
and that would be one of them.
Mhm.
So, because that was November of 2019,
2019. Yeah.
And-
November 15th, 2019.
that was your last day
That was my last
ever
day.
working for someone else.
Yep. That's right. Solemn day, man. And in talking about what it takes to be successful in this business, I think that I'll pull on Pat Lencioni's book, The Ideal Team Player. I'm actually reading that right now as a reference from some friends. He talks about being hungry, humble, and smart. And for us, that hunger was the thing that ultimately
Right.
kept me going. The hunger for making it succeed and making the business get to a point where we were able to actually help more people and provide service and provide the exact experience that we weren't getting when we started looking for help and started looking for guidance. That's that fuel and that fire that
Right.
led us down this path to where we are today. To the fact that we can even be here recording and trying to put this message out there to hopefully give other people the same kind of hope and the opportunity to free their minds and free their perspectives to achieve something better for their families and for their futures.
That's right.
So, but yeah, we made that transition. I went full time. That was my last day as an engineer. We'll say you're a traditional engineer. I kind of consider myself doing financial engineering these days because it's all problem solving, but it's more direct with people, and you do get to see the results a lot quicker, which I really love that. Just getting to help people, get out of their own way or get a different perspective on how money works, or just make those connections on what it takes to keep making that 1% better every single day and keep moving forward. But I think a lot of that goes back to just the process of putting yourself in that difficult position or putting yourself in that uncomfortable environment where you're not the smartest one in the room and you get to see a different perspective. That is such a life-changing experience that I think so many people don't take the opportunity to put themselves into because it's not comfortable, right? The very first time we were in a room with people that made $4 million a year, that was uncomfortable. And then having conversations with people.
Such a long way to go.
Yeah, it was like, oh my gosh,
that.
but it's possible, right? It is possible. And we're not there today, right? Maybe one day if we build a really good business with a lot of advisors and the Lord blesses our efforts, that's something we could get to as a business. But the reality is, like, it is possible. And having conversations with folks where, they're making, I even remember making $10,000 a month, like, in the business and talking to people where it's like, oh my gosh, like, can we ever get there? Like, what does that look like to have that kind of freedom?
Yeah, and there's just been so much along the way. You went full time, then there was COVID.
Yeah, before COVID started. I forgot about
which
that.
Which was interesting, And then, we went through this transition of, okay, now we need to find our own office as we had been like kind of co-leasing from someone. And there's just been so many different versions of this business for us. It's amazing to think about.
Right.
All the things that we have just kind of navigated.
Right.
And now we have our own office.
We have our own office,
and we're serving a ton of families and bringing more on and growing a team.
Yep, growing advisors,
That's true.
Bringing on some more support staff so we can help support our clients, support our advisors.
And then, then my role's changed, obviously, lately with the birth of Samuel. So it's just been quite a wild ride.
Yeah, and I think maybe not to gloss over that is, one of the key focuses that I always had from the time we came to Smart Pro Financial was I had giving goals where we want to give a certain percentage of our church's annual budget. We want to be able to give that away, but also was giving us the freedom of family time.
Right.
Because I remember the days, growing up where, it's work, right? And the amount of effort and, diligence is required to see things successful, right? Like my parents were entrepreneurs and, I've gotten to see what it's like to build a business and sustain a business and grow a business. And we wanted that for ourselves, but we also wanted that balance of freedom. And I think that that's the key thing for us today is, with our mission statement for Smart Pro, it's that we help create a simple map for your financial journey to encourage you to leave normal behind. I always add in the normal that this world has become and guides you to the future you're hoping for. But on a more personal basis, our personal mission statement for me and Haley is that we partner with diligent workers, committed savers, and cheerful givers to balance the joy of living today while building and preserving generational wealth. And to me, that's really more of the how we do it with the simple map and encouraging to leave normal behind. Because a lot of folks, they think that to win with money is like, oh, I have to live on beans and rice for my entire life. And that's not the case, right? We need to be good stewards of what we have. If we've made some tough decisions, we got to correct those and rectify that. But once we have that rectified, let's have an abundance mindset and let's focus on what the opportunities can be if we continue to be good stewards and diligent workers.
And that's going to be kind of what you hear throughout all the episodes is stewardship and then family and just kind of other little things that we've got going on. And this is real. This is us. This is our business. This is our family.
Yeah.
This is life.
Yep. And some days we're still waking up and saying, we hope this works out because there's days like that, and there's so many events and circumstances in the world that we can't control. And we try to remind our clients and remind our friends, hey, focus on what you can focus on, because at the end of the day, if you continue to do the right work every single day, that 1% better every single day, that's what's going to lead to progress over time, whatever that progress is. And that progress can be in the wrong direction. Right. I think that's something that a lot of people miss is, even talking about debt versus investing is if you're not knocking out your debt, compound interest is working for you, but it's working in the exact wrong way you want it to work. Right.
Right.
So just making sure we're focusing our efforts, using our time well, focusing on the right actions and doing it in the right ways is ultimately what builds opportunity and success. And that's where we are today. I feel very confident saying that, we've been blessed through this entire journey. We've had some very, very tough times and very tough conversations and experiences. Things that, let's go grab a Coke or something and talk about one day if you want to hear those things. But overall, just doing the work and being persistent and giving everyone opportunity, I think that's been, one of the keys to where we are today.
Right. I agree.
So I guess just wrapping up for episode 1 here, what is in your mind one of the key takeaways that people should focus on? Just hearing a little bit of our story. Obviously, this is a lot of meat, summarized down into one tiny morsel, right? But
Okay.
what would you say is the key takeaway people need to think about if they were to summarize our talk today?
Teamwork for sure. And I think I say that a lot, or I think about that a lot, because teamwork doesn't matter what you're working towards. It doesn't matter what your end goal is, as husband and wife, especially, if you're looking for financial success, right? Like in the home, is being successful and being together, working together is super important.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. And I would just add to that is what I mentioned earlier, which is, looking for opportunities to put yourself into difficult situations, to not to put like the pressure on in a negative sense, but really, introduce challenges and obstacles in
Push
your life.
yourself.
Push yourself. Like
Yeah.
don't be passive. Don't be, to use some words that people in the culture use today, don't be soft, right? You got to be hard, and you got to make sure you're doing the right things to grow yourself. And we'll obviously be talking more about that over time of, what it takes to see that progress.
Because your no today can turn into a yes in the future.
100%. 100%. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us. Because we're here.
I'm with you all the time.
But we're super excited to kick this off and start this process, and would love to connect with you guys. If you have any comments or thoughts, feel free to comment on the show, send us a message, just anything you guys want to hear about. We have a list of probably like 100 ideas right now, and that's a lot of time behind this microphone. So we're going to try to be efficient with our content and categories. But if there's anything specific people want to hear, just reach out to us and let us know.
Thanks. We'll see you next time.
Thanks. Have a great day. Discussions in this show are for entertainment and educational purposes only and should not be construed as specific recommendations or investment advice. Always consult with your investment professional before making important investment decisions. Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and neither SmartPro Financial nor Bridgeway Wealth are affiliated.